Folks, welcome in to Wednesday Windup here on the Cool Sports Network and the Chases Sports News YouTube channel. Winter basketball and more. That's right, baseball season is not here currently. The last time we did Wednesday Windup, it was a long time ago, but it was baseball season. Now we're winding up for some great NBA basketball action and Luka Doncic going to the LA Lakers. I can't believe it. I know I'm one of the later ones here to report this, but had to wait for Wednesday Windup to jump on and talk about it. I mean, the Mavericks gave away one of the greatest players and one of the most talented players we've ever seen in this game. That's the bottom line. And we're going to break that down even more. No, folks, I'm not a Laker hat, but I do love the hat. Luka Doncic is going to the Lakers. You can't spell Luka without LA. And then we go over to the NFL side. We got the awards ceremony on Thursday. We got the Super Bowl on Sunday. A lot of great things to talk about over there. A lot to talk about on this episode of Wednesday Windup. I'm your host, Chase Coburn. Please sit back and enjoy. All right, let's talk about this Luka trade. I don't think I've ever been more shocked to wake up and hear news in my entire life. It's anything. It could be anything. I think that what just made this trade so shocking is that the Lakers actually were playing really well leading up to this. Like, at first, I feel like everyone was like, what move is the Lakers going to make? What move is the Lakers going to make? Lakers have been playing on fire as of late. It kind of seemed like, all right, maybe they'll go through this deadline, play quietly, but then boom, Rob Pelinka gets the call that Luka Doncic is on the market. I don't blame him for putting up Anthony Davis on the table. I guess what the irony of everything is, first of all, let's talk about the details. Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis in a first-round pick. A few other players going from here and there, rotational guys, whatever. That's the deal. Anthony Davis in a first-round pick for Luka Doncic. I think that what's funny is right now the reports are saying the reason why the Mavericks are giving away or why they did give away Luka Doncic is because of his conditioning and injuries. And yet Anthony Davis, the guy they're getting, is one of the more injury-prone players. And it's not like the Mavericks are looking to rebuild. The general manager says on his press conference afterwards that this was a move to try to win now. But to me, it could just be me, giving away a top 3 player in the game isn't exactly a win now move. Again, it could just be me. But the Mavericks were in the NBA Finals last year. They won the Western Conference Finals in 5 games last year. Like, when Luka Doncic is on, when he is locked in, he's got that Luka Doncic, Kobe Bryant mentality that nobody could stop him. The guy that literally single-handedly led them to the NBA Finals, they did not have a top 2 roster in the NBA last year, and yet they were a top 2 team in the NBA making the NBA Finals because of Luka Doncic. The Mavs blew away their future. And I think that a lot of people were looking at this right now. We're saying, look, theoretically, if the Mavericks win a title with this core, it's worth it. I mean, I think most people would say that. But the question is, how likely is that? Like, I actually have a hot take. I think the Mavericks go farther in the playoffs this year than the Lakers. I mean, I could break this down in just a minute, but I think schematically, the way that these teams are set up, I mean, who's playing center in Los Angeles? And again, I'll get into why it's still a good trade in a second. But, like, Dallas, they have a really well-rounded roster. Jason Kidd has a lot to work with. When guys are healthy, you've got Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Anthony Davis, guys with championship experience, Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford to play in the front court alongside Anthony Davis or come off the bench for him. You got PJ Washington, who's a great scorer. They have other outlets, Dallas. And they got kind of that big 3 of championship performers and guys who know how to play when it matters most. I think that's great. But at the same time, is a core of Anthony Davis, Klay Thompson, and Kyrie Irving at this time in their career winning a championship. If this was 2018, they'd be the favorites. This would be one of the most dominant big 3s we've seen in the NBA. But it's not 2018. It's 2025. It's 7 years later. And none of those guys, I think, are capable of being number 1 players on a championship team. Anthony Davis is great. Whether you think he's been more talented than LeBron or not, whether you think he's actually been a better basketball player or not is besides the point. LeBron James commanded the court when he was with the Los Angeles Lakers. He was the best player on that basketball team. We've never seen Anthony Davis play really well as a number 1 player, and now he doesn't have a LeBron James next to him who could make his life easier. Kyrie Irving's great. Klay Thompson could shoot. Gafford, Lively, Washington. Those guys are awesome. They're not LeBron James. It's going to be, I think, a huge drop-off, and I think Davis is going to have to do more on his own. again, I love the core, but I think one of two things is going to happen. Either this entire franchise is going to crumble and burn, the general manager is going to get fired, or number two, there are more moves to come. Tomorrow is the NBA trade deadline, and we're going to break down maybe some more things that could happen from now until then. But maybe Davis isn't done. Maybe he gets flipped in the offseason, because I don't think trading a 25-year-old for, a 31, 32-year-old is a win-now move. It's just not. Especially when the 25-year-old has made 5 All-NBA teams. And the 32-year-old hasn't been the best player on his own court since 2019. Again, that's not trying to criticize Anthony Davis, but it's just kind of putting it into perspective. The Mavericks blew away their future. I mean, Kevin Durant, they got 4 first-round picks, 2 swaps at 34 years old, Brooklyn. I mean, Russell Westbrook, 5 first-round picks. Paul George had control of 6 first-round picks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Rudy Gobert took 5 first-round picks. How is Luka Doncic given away for 1 first-round pick in 2029, which, by the way, the Mavericks got to think about, probably won't be valuable then? That's when Luka's going to be in his prime. In 2029, Luka Doncic is going to be, 29 years old? In the middle of his prime with the Lakers. That pick is not valuable that year. So that pick's going to mean nothing. It's hard to comprehend. I want to talk about the conditioning issues, right? Because people are like, well, what if he really is an ex-Zion? What if there's something we don't know? Maybe he has a nagging injury or something, blah, 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 blah. Unless, he literally wiped out his leg and can't walk, you don't give up Luka Doncic. There are other teams in a similar position. I actually think in worse positions. And that's the Los Angeles Clippers with Kawhi Leonard, and that's New Orleans Pelicans with Zion Williamson. Those are the 2 teams where you're like, those teams are also in pickles with their star player. Except Zion hardly plays. I haven't looked this up. I don't think Zion's played half the games he could have played in his 6 year NBA career now. And I mean, Kawhi Leonard, he's hurt. He just gets hurt. It's not a conditioning issue for him. He's just very, very injury prone. It's sad because when he's at his best, he's one of the top 10 players in the world. But it feels like he's never really at his best, and we haven't seen him play like the 2019 Finals MVP. Luka Doncic isn't even in the same caliber as those guys. It's one thing to say, fine, we're not going to make the same mistake the Clippers and the Pelicans are, because now their franchises are going nowhere respectively, and they've wasted possible great eras because they're holding on to their star for too long. But I think anyone who watches the game of basketball can tell you the substantial difference in terms of conditioning and injuries and talent between Luka Doncic and then the Kawhi Leonards and Zion Williamsons of the world. You don't give up Luka Doncic. You say he has conditioning issues, but yet he's conditioned fine enough to lead your team, Dallas Mavericks, to the NBA Finals. The Los Angeles Lakers are not actually going to do well this season with Luka Doncic. That is my take. I don't think this team is well-rounded. They got 2 ball-dominant, need-the-ball guards. I'm not saying they're ball hawks. They're both incredible passers. 2 of the best we've ever seen. But they both need the basketball. I can dang sure tell you Luka Doncic isn't good off the ball. I'm almost certain LeBron James ain't going to play off the ball. So I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know, the saying, I don't know how many cooks in the kitchen there's going to be in terms of this team offensively. I don't know how they're going to balance this attack. But you have LeBron James and Luka Doncic, you can figure it out. I don't think it's going to be figured out with LeBron and Luka. But I do think that the reason why the Lakers made this trade is they're essentially saying, look, we could have possibly won a title with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but it's very unlikely. The team is a good basketball team, not a great basketball team. Now you get Luka Doncic and you say, maybe we're closing the window on LeBron James possibly winning a title. But he's broken the scoring record. He has possibly every record imaginable. He's won a championship with your franchise. It's not that large of a necessity at this point. Now you could make the transition. Now you could have LeBron James, for the first time in his entire career, be the second best player on the floor. LeBron James isn't the best player on the court. I think he's going to play like the best player on the court, because to me, LeBron James is the type of guy, if he's on the floor, he's going to be the best. And I think he's going to be like that till he retires. But now you have a guy in Luka Doncic who has just as much talent, and I think will control a lot of the offense. I think it's going to help out LeBron a lot. I mean, you watch Lakers game this year, and it feels like it's a LeBron takeover game. So I think there is an element to that for this season. But the Lakers didn't do this trade for 2025. I mean, the Lakers did this trade because it could help them in the long term. And it looked like they had no future and were pigeonholing themselves to possibly winning a title in the next 2 seasons with a 40-year-old LeBron James having to carry them like he did back in the 2022 playoffs. Instead, now you have one of the best young talents the game has ever seen to run your franchise. And of course it's the Lakers. Why wouldn't it be the Lakers? But for Dallas to give away a 25-year-old phenom in the middle of his prime who led you to an NBA Finals last year, and not only that, not even ship him around. They literally called the Lakers and are like, yo, we want AD. And Rob Pelinka's like, all right, sure, dang, we'll take Luka Doncic. I can't even picture how that interaction goes. And people were like, there's no way LeBron didn't know or Jason Kidd didn't know and all this. I think that could be the case. I don't think these conversations lingered for long. I think Dallas got on the phone. They called Rob Pelinka in Los Angeles and they said, hi, we're giving away Luka Doncic. And Lakers said, all right, can we do this? And there was blah, 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 signed the papers under the table and we got ourselves a deal. I don't think this was that as crazy as the reaction was. I think it just seemed so nonchalant for Dallas. But how it could be nonchalant to give up a 25-year-old in the middle of his prime and get one first-round pick for him is beyond me. Again, it's not like you're trading Luka Doncic for Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's not like you're going from superstar to superstar. And then Dallas is like, we don't want to pay him. That goes into it too. It's a conditioning issues and then not wanting to give him the supermax. He was the best player on an NBA Finals team last year at 25 years old. If he doesn't deserve the supermax, Dallas, who does? Just a lot of questions. I mean, a lot of ambiguity in terms of reasons why the Mavericks made this choice. Why they chose to give away Luka Doncic in the middle of his prime. I think the franchise is going to pay the price. The Lakers now have a future, and Dallas doesn't. And Dallas, I think, could have 1 or 2 years playing decently good basketball with Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, and Klay Thompson, but it's going to lead to no playoff success. And they're going to literally give away one of the best players in the history of the game, I think, in terms of talent and the way he's played thus far. Going to get him to a Western Conference team that's now going to be a contender for the next 10 to 15 years. I mean, the Lakers are really set for their future now. And I think Dallas is really going to pay the price for it. And they're going to watch the Lakers have all their successes with Luka Doncic, and they're just going to sit there and cry about it. Is there more to come during the NBA trade deadline? I mean, we saw Kyle Kuzma and the Chris Middleton trade today. I think some veterans are going to get shipped out. We already saw the De'Aaron Fox, Zach LaVine trade. I don't think the Wizards are done. Teams like that in Washington's position got guys like Malcolm Brogdon, Jonas Valanciunas. I think those guys are going to get watched out or dished out. Watch out for some stars. I mean, Kevin Durant's declined all the rumors. Washington tried to see if they could get Durant in a Kuzma deal. That didn't work. Beyond me why the Wizards thought that would work, but I digress. So you do that. And that's not going to work. Kevin Durant said he doesn't want to go to the Warriors, so it seems like KD's turning everything down. I do think the Warriors need to make a move. I mean, they don't really have a future right now, so whether that is building your future, they're not going to get rid of Steph Curry, but whether that is building your future or helping you contend, the Warriors need to make a decision. They have to do something because right now that franchise is literally stuck in NBA purgatory. And then I think the Pistons might add some firepower. That's a hot basketball team. You got Cade Cunningham running the ship. You got a lot of young, talented players there, and that's a team that I think when things can come together can click and really get hot at the right time and maybe win a playoff series, depending on where they're seated. But I do think they may add some firepower because I think that they're realizing they're about to maybe enter their contending stage. And I think they're excited for what maybe could come with that. NFL awards ceremony this Thursday, your NFL 2024-25 awards. I wrote an article on chasecoburn.substack.com why I think Lamar Jackson should be the MVP over Josh Allen. And I'm going to break that down in a little bit, but I'm going to go through every other award first, and then I'll explain to you why. And then obviously I'll have you guys read the article as well. Don't think I was going to have you guys not read the article. Come on now, I'm smarter than that. But we're going to talk about why I think Lamar Jackson should be MVP over Josh Allen. And a quick reminder to everyone about that argument and about every other argument. This is a regular season award. What happened in the playoffs means absolutely nothing, and I'm pretty sure that the voting took place before the postseason to avoid any backlash from just that right there, because I think a lot of these things would change if you included postseason success, and I'll break that down. Coach of the year. I think a lot of people would definitely put Dan Quinn if it included the playoffs. I still think in the regular season, when you have a Washington team that was projected for 5 wins and they won 12, they went the exact opposite of what betting lines projected going 12-5 instead of 5-12. I mean, I think that that's a great year for Dan Quinn. A lot of people didn't like the hire. I was one of them. I didn't think he was the right guy to kind of run things and run this new era of Washington football. But clearly, I stand corrected on that one because Dan Quinn was great. And the way that he conducts his football team, he just has them ready for so much success. He loves his players. The players love him. And again, Jaden Daniels made a huge impact, but I think a lot of it was having the head coaching position. He wasn't given much talent, and he made the NFC Championship game with it and won 12 games with it during the regular season. Dan Quinn is your coach of the year. Comeback player of the year. Now, this one's interesting to me. I think Joe Burrow's got a shot. I think J.K. Dobbins has a shot. But now they've kind of changed the award to want to give it to Damar Hamlin. I thought Hamlin should have got it last year. I mean, the guy literally had his heart stop beating in the middle of a football field, came back and started 5 games, and people were like, nope, Joe Flacco, 39-year-old Joe Flacco. I mean, why that happened last year is still beyond me. Hamlin should have won Comeback Player of the Year last year. So if he didn't get it last year, and the whole argument is, all right, we need to see him play really well, then this year has got to be the year, right? I mean, he's a full-time starter for Buffalo. He's been outstanding, one of their best defensive players. Really anchored what they did, especially in the divisional round game against Baltimore. And I get that doesn't count, but it's just kind of adding on to the fact that Hamlin has been able to return to a form that better than what he was even before the fatal injury, I should say. So, I mean, I think Damar Hamlin should win Comeback Player of the Year. I think he will get it. But, I mean, I think that it's a weird year because when Hamlin's there, it feels weird not to give it to him. Like, how often do you see a guy back-to-back years in the Comeback Player of the Year finalist? That's why I think he will get it and why he should get it. I just think it's a little bit awkward to me. So maybe they don't give it to him at all. Maybe they just screw him away from it. And if that's the case, I would go J.K. Dobbins. But I think that Hamlin deserves one considering he had his heart stop on the field and then now is one of the pivotal parts of his football team. So, I mean, I think he should get that Comeback Player of the Year spot. Defensive Rookie of the Year. I have no horse in this race. I have no conviction. There's no guy who I think stands above the rest. I'd watch out for one of Cooper DeJean or Quinyon Mitchell. But the fact that they're both there, I think it's like, I mean, how many guys? I mean, one time in NBA history has a guy been on the first team All-Pro, or two guys, in first team All-NBA, and then the other guy won MVP. It was Moses Malone when he won it back in 1983, and Julius Erving was alongside him in terms of All-NBA. So I think when you have two guys contending for that award, I think it's very hard to make the case that one guy was far superior than their teammate and far superior than everyone else in terms of the value they added as a rookie on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Verse has got another guy there, but I just think Jared Verse is going to do it. I mean, it's harder for corners to win any defensive award anyway because it's harder for them to rack up statistics. Jared Verse this year, he was a Pro Bowler, 4.5 sacks. If you include what he did in the postseason, which, again, if we don't for the awards, he'd clearly have this wrapped up. What a postseason he had 2 sacks on Jalen Hurts, had the fumble recovery on Sam Darnold, but he recovered 2 fumbles during the regular season, forced 2 fumbles during the regular season, 4.5 sacks, a Pro Bowl appearance. Again, I don't think there were any great defensive rookies. Whoever wins the award, it's going to really not mean much to me. I think this is one of the weaker defensive rookie of the year classes we've seen in a while, but I think it will go to Verse. I think it should go to Verse. And a lot of people projected that early in the season. So I feel like he's just kind of stayed pat, hasn't had a lot of hype going around, good or bad, but I think Verse will take it home. Offensive Rookie of the Year. For a while, I was a Brock Bowers guy. I was so ready to come on this podcast and make a whole case for Brock Bowers and why Jaden Daniels was bad. And I really wanted to come on here with all these advanced stats. And I wanted to say, Jaden Daniels, or he's not as good. And there was nothing there really for me. I really had no case. And then Daniels clearly proved me wrong and many other people wrong in terms of his postseason run, but then also the way that he closed out the regular season. I mean, Jaden Daniels had one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen. I mean, C.J. Stroud won it over Puka Nacua last year. I mean, Daniels was far superior this season than Stroud was last year. I mean, Daniels made the plays. I think he's already a consensus top 5 quarterback in the league because he can lead his team. He can conduct an offense. No other guy, besides Patrick Mahomes, is another guy I'd rather have driving me down the field in the fourth quarter. I mean, he's just Jaden Daniels. He's electric. He's fun to watch. And I think he takes it home. And again, I think Brock Bowers did, making first team All-Pro is marvelous, but Puka Nacua last year had a better season. He couldn't get it over Stroud. I can't sit here with a straight face and say that Brock Bowers should get it over the QB. And it's not like one of those situations where it's like, okay, we'll just favor the quarterback. Daniels was the best offensive rookie in football this year. And it's crazy. Bo Nix would usually be an 29 touchdowns this year, and he's not even in the conversation. So a great rookie class on the offensive side of the ball, but Jaden Daniels reigns above all of them as the top offensive rookie. He'll clearly get the award he rightfully deserves. Frankly, he should have been like an MVP finalist, if you want me to be honest with you. What a job he did with Washington this year. Defensive player of the year is another weird one because the leader in sacks, Trey Hendrickson, they all kind of came in certain games. Like he kind of had a multiple 3-sack games, but outside of that, was he the consistent game by game, the best defensive player in football? I don't think so. But then you look at the other finalists and you're just like, It's just like there's not one guy that kind of reigns above everybody else. I mean, we've had that in previous years, but like this year, Myles Garrett, like he was fine. TJ Watt, he was fine. Nothing special to me. And then again, Trey Hendrickson, I think Pat Surtain's got a case. He'd be my runner-up, but to me, I'm going to give it to Zach Bond. He's a finalist for a reason. No one's really talking about him. What he's done with Philadelphia's defense, he goes from an outside linebacker to a first-team All-Pro middle linebacker, I think just as good as Roquan Smith and Fred Warner in terms of their rank in the National Football League. What a player. What a story. And I think that Zach Bond, the Eagles aren't in the Super Bowl right now if it's not for Zach Bond. I think he's kind of my underlying kind of like hot take type of pick. I think he was the best defensive player in football this season. I think he should get the award that he rightfully deserves. Offensive player of the year. Staying in Philadelphia, staying in the city of brotherly love, it's Saquon Barkley. And I think that the conversation for a lot of people is it offensive line or is it Saquon? But I mean, DeAndre Swift didn't do this. Miles Sanders didn't do this. I mean, Saquon Barkley is coming to Philadelphia. He's about to break the regular season and postseason. When you combine them together, he's going to break that single season record. He would have broken the record in terms of single season, regular season rushing yardage had he played the final week. Eric Dickerson now still holds that and may hold it for a little longer than I think fans would have expected when we saw Barkley going on this run, going on this tear. But I mean, Barkley was marvelous. I mean, Derrick Henry was great. I think Derrick Henry is a very, very good running back this year. I think he puts up just as good numbers if he's in Philadelphia's system. But that's not how this award works. I mean, Barkley would explode. Any defense he faced, he was there. He's making the big plays. I think he had 6 60-yard rushing touchdowns this year. He's just that type of guy. And he could do it both in the passing game and in the rushing game. And we've seen games where the Eagles' passing game has literally been non-existent. And Saquon Barkley has been the conductor of the offense and kind of leading them down the field, leading them to wins. This Eagles team went from dysfunctional to 14 wins in a Super Bowl appearance. You got to give Saquon Barkley a lot of props for what he's done in his first year in Philadelphia. I think he should get the Offensive Player of the Year award. And then MVP. I got Lamar Jackson, not Josh Allen. And Lamar's going to get it. Let me put that out there. He had, a lot, the All-Pro voters, a lot of them are also the people who vote for MVP. Lamar Jackson had 30 of the 50 first-team All-Pro votes. A quarterback, Allen, had 18. So I think that the voters are going to favor Lamar Jackson as the more valuable player. I think the reason Josh Allen would get it is because he hasn't yet. And I think Lamar Jackson would be being deprived of the chance of getting a third MVP because he's already had 2, almost as if he would be penalized for to have already won 2 MVPs previously. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Lamar Jackson's a better quarterback than Josh Allen. I mean, I just watched them play in the playoffs, and one guy had 2 first-half turnovers and the other didn't. And whether you want to blame Lamar for the Ravens' losses or not is a different discussion, and one I'd be open to having as a Baltimore Ravens fan. But even though Josh Allen didn't do much, the whole point was he didn't make the same mistakes Lamar did. He outplayed Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, and he had that crack at Patrick Mahomes, and he played really well in his crack at Patrick Mahomes as well. So I think that, again, that doesn't go into the MVP voting. I am going to have Josh Allen as a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. But in terms of regular season value, I think it's Lamar. And the whole term of value to people is going nuts. But, I mean, we've seen this Buffalo team when Allen hasn't had to do much, playing great football in the postseason. And I think it is giving you a great perspective that, yes, Josh Allen had a great month of football. Yes, the counting stats of some of Josh Allen's counterparts on the offense aren't breaking records. But I do think that has to be into consideration. The playoff success has to be into consideration. And I think what Josh Allen did this regular season was partially because of his teammates, as it was for Lamar Jackson. Jackson had a lot of great offensive players. I mean, Isaiah Likely, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, number 89, who shall not be named in Baltimore. A lot of great offensive playmakers on his team. Justice Hill, even out of the backfield. So I think he had a lot of those guys. But Jackson would also make games himself. I mean, Lamar Jackson had, I think, 2 games the perfect passer rating this year. He had, I think, 3 or 4 games with just as many, if not more, touchdowns and incompletions. That's just the guy he is. I mean, Lamar Jackson just takes games over and plays better football than just as good as football as we've ever seen from the quarterback position. I mean, he has 6 of the 24 perfect passer rating games in the history of the NFL, and he's done it in 7 seasons. So, I mean, Lamar's marvelous. He's spectacular. I think he'll get the MVP again, but until he does anything in the playoffs, until he wins consecutive playoff games come postseason time, his success is going to continue to be hollow, and those MVP awards are going to mean nothing in the grand scheme of things because Jackson's going to be sitting there with 3 of them on his trophy case. Allen's going to have 0. Lamar's going to have a Heisman on there too. But Allen's been a better quarterback because he wins in the playoffs, at least does it more than Lamar Jackson does. And so I think that it's going to be like a yay, but we don't really care type MVP award for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens fan base. Hope you guys did enjoy. I'm going to talk about the Super Bowl. We're going to save that for another time. We got more Super Bowl coverage coming up later this week. Wiz Talk with Chase coverage for the Kyle Kuzma trade. And then we got some Fairfield University coverage coming up on here as well. A lot of great things to look forward to. A 26-minute episode of Wednesday Windup. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate all the support we continually get on this show. The NFL awards, NBA trade deadline, a lot of great stuff to look up to here. And then, of course, the Super Bowl. More coverage. Stay tuned here on the Chase of Sports' YouTube channel and on the Cool Sports Network podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Signing off, I'm Chase Coburn saying so long. Wind up for some great sports on the way. I'm Chase Coburn. Take care. And as always, happy football.